Well, thank you, Thelma, for being willing to let me interview you about the Receive course. As you know, what I'm most interested in is having students share their experience so that people who are thinking about the Receive course can learn more about what's possible and connect with the possibilities. So thanks for doing this with me. So I think just to start, I'd love it if you would share a little bit about what was your original reason for taking the Receive course.
Ah, so, I've worked with you in the past when we reconnected, right? I think when I came to you again, most recently, I felt like I was stuck, right? Stuck from a point of, I guess, personal growth. I had been using all the tools that I'd learned from all the various mentors, and I guess I was seeking out another tool, or a tool that was a little bit less, a tool that was, I guess, had more, like we talk about the more feminine side of things, if you will, and not so much do, because I was doing all the other stuff, right? Like the mantras or the, positive thinking, and everything was very, very action oriented now that I know a lot more about the Receive course. So that was some of it. One was from personal growth perspective. The second reason why I came was probably because I don't think I was a very good receiver. So being somebody who, I can't say I'm fully independent, but was pretty much independent, I took care of myself. And so really receiving stuff from people, even gifts sometimes was uncomfortable. I mean, I was very grateful, but being able to be open and really receive everything was something that was of interest to me.
Okay, great. As you were responding, it reminded me kind of this sort of secondary question that I've been thinking about asking the people that I'm interviewing, given that I started off as a law of attraction expert. I have a book on it, and I know that you've studied a lot about that, whether it's through me or there's a lot of teachers out there that have been teaching manifestation. So maybe as we weave into the next question, which is of the things that you've been learning through the Receive course, what is it that you have found most impactful? And maybe you can weave in a little bit about how is it different than law of attraction teachings? Like what's different about it from a manifestation point of view?
Well, I guess early on in my learning, right, a lot was around mindset, a lot around, what are the things that I could do, if you will, to get things to manifest. For me, the course really helped with really getting in touch with my own personal feelings, like being able to sit in uncomfortable feelings and really, really celebrate good feelings. It goes back to, I think, the one thing that you had talked about at one point, like you have that goal and you want it, you get it, and then it's, okay, now what? Like that, you get the feeling, but then it's gone and you're on to the next one, right? And so as an individual that's in sales, I felt like, oh yeah, I got that big deal. Okay, now it's time to move on. Now I'm chasing that other big deal again, right? Or that other deal. It just felt like there was no consistency, and it was very, very tiring, and it can be very, very tiring, right? If you're always chasing for me. So I don't know if I answered the question, but from a manifesting perspective, I think going deeper and understanding really how to manifest, if you will, and how much power an individual has to manifest, right? For me, myself, and because it's so easy to fall into victimhood, right? And until I catch myself, I'm in victimhood. And I honor that and I let that be. But once I catch myself, I'm like, oh my goodness, what was I thinking, right? Because that power within is just so much more powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great to hear. That's good.
Yeah.
So, so with that, I mean, you really talked about exactly what I'm really passionate about teaching about. It just doesn't have to be that hard, and it gets, what you were doing. And I do work with a lot of people in sales, it's just always hunting, chasing. Right. It's just like you never actually feel like you arrive, because then there's the next quota to fill and the next one and the next one. And I know that this goes beyond your job and your sales quota, but that's one of the places that you've had a chance to experiment. So share a little bit about, or a lot, how much you want, about what you have manifested, both in an inner level world, like the personal fulfillment, the feeling piece, but also what you've seen manifest in your outer world.
So I'll start with outer world. So from my outer world, I think when I first got introduced to the concept in your Receive course back in the summer of last year, you know, before this energy retreat, like a 6-figure deal just showed up. Like, I'm like, really? Like, I didn't have to go chase it. Like, it closed quickly too. Like, it closed within 3 months. So, you know, that led me to believe, oh, what are my limitations that I keep for myself? Not from a belief, from a thought perspective, right? So I had some large deals show up. I'd have to say the relationship with my husband is so much more better and deeper. And probably, and I would admit to the reason for that is because of the internal self-worth, right? The internal self-worth, the self-love that I have for myself now is deeper. I can't say that I, you know, was hard on myself, but I definitely have gone through in my lifetime, you know, the self-doubt, the guilt, all of that stuff, right? I still go through it, but now I have tools that go through them, right? Let's see, what else have I manifested? You know, I quickly became certified. You know, I wanted to do that soul alignment, and I didn't, and I got there without not a whole lot of support, right? And not in a bad way, just like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this pretty quickly, right? And I can do this and I can just receive everything that I need. That's some of it. You know, at work, things have aligned a lot better. I have a teammate that thinks, not exactly, but we think very closely in the way we should run our business. So it's nice not to have somebody to butt heads, but it's also nice to have somebody that is also personally growing from a learning manifestation perspective. She's a little younger than me, but it's nice to be able to have those conversations during the day at work and not always talk about work, right? And maybe just grow that way and allow our territory to flourish just by having those conversations. So that's some of it. And now for me, from a manifestation perspective, there's a lot of fulfillment and freedom that I'm still tapping into kind of internally.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Would you say that, you know, my biggest intention is that people unlearn struggle, that really receiving happens. The manifestations, of course, we want to experience that fulfillment, but do you find that it actually is easier? Do you find that you are struggling less? Do you find that you've got tools to do that?
I would say yes, and the reason why is because of the one YouTube recording you did in regards to a dream house, I believe it was, and realizing that, you know, the desires and the manifestation we have, like you say, come with an entourage. Right. And that just blew my mind. Like, I'm like, what do you mean an entourage? And like, can't I just have that one good thing? Right. So when it comes with an entourage, you have the tools that help us deal with the not negative, but the more uncomfortable feelings that come with that manifested desire, right? Because it comes with uncomfortable. I mean, there's polarity in this world, right? So, and so yes, from a struggle perspective, being aware that yes, I will have that, but along with that may come some things that I might not be comfortable with, but that's okay. I just, you know, I allow it, right? I allow it to come, and then I allow it to, like you say, land at that perspective.
Great. Well, you know, you wove into something that I wanted to highlight, which was, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about it, but that piece about what, of all the things you've learned, what do you feel has been the most impactful, like the principle or the teaching? And so I don't know if everybody who will be watching this video will fully understand that, so I'll probably include a link to it, but just to kind of say it here so it doesn't leave people wondering, the idea that you're talking about is that when you have a dream, you don't just receive the dream, you receive the entourage, which is all the thoughts and the feelings, the worries, the concerns, positive and negative, that come with the dream. And what, like you said, we try to be, that's one of the things we unlearn, is being selective about what we receive. Yeah.
Right. And then I'd have to say, I mean, there's so much that I learned, right, out of the course. there's no one thing, but I think the other thing that's coming up right now is to really come back to myself and really nurture myself. I mean, I think I made a comment earlier about how my husband and my relationship's deeper, right? And that's because I come back to myself, right? It's that nurturing and I can't say that I had put myself first in all of my life, right? I was always doing for others. So it was new to learn. How do I nurture myself? And that has been impactful for me.
Really good. So just to put a little bit of a spotlight on that, because it's such an important cornerstone of the teachings, can you just share a little bit more about anything you want to say about what you've learned about why nurturing yourself is so important to receiving your fulfillment? What stands out for you there?
Why nurturing? I don't know. I guess what I've learned, and for me, the insights I've got is if I'm contracted, or if nothing is in flow and I'm just spinning internally. But if I allow emotions and energy to flow through me by nurturing myself, things will come a little bit easier. Does that make sense? I don't know. That's what I've learned. That's my interpretation.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's my interpretation of it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it always goes deeper. It always goes deeper. One of the things I love to highlight, and again, for anybody who'll be watching it, is the most important thing to me about why nurturing is so important is that until we really understand the power of self-nurturing, we get our value. We talk about transactional value. So my value, my self-worth, my worthiness is based on what I do in the world. And when I nurture myself, what my consciousness is telling me and all of the universe is I'm worthy of receiving just because I'm here. So if I have uncomfortable feelings, if there's something negative that I'm struggling with, I nurture myself, which is the energy of I'm willing to receive love and therefore abundance and goodness and kindness of life simply because I exist. And so that actually cultivates that natural worthiness, and that's where the ease comes from. Yeah.
And that's another one of your teachings too, I'm still learning, the transactional versus innate. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's been so much fun to watch you travel this path. I have one more question, which is, so why would you recommend this course in general? And what kind of person do you think could benefit the most from what the Receive course has to offer?
I think what's coming to mind is the individual that feels like there's something better out there for themselves in their life, not in a sense of having, but if it's an individual that doesn't like to keep repeating processes in their life over and over and over again, it's a course that will help you to stop, right? Because it's a different paradigm. And so you can take that paradigm and then change, and then it'll create ease in your life too. Once you understand the paradigm shift and everything that goes with it. But it really is for that individual that feels maybe not stuck, but like there's got to be a better way than this. Like of me having to. I mean, I think about our territory and people that work super hard, and I'm like, there is a better way than that. But so I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Cool. One more thing to touch base. You had that, I think it was your stepdaughter or a niece who's also in sales, and she was struggling with closing a deal. Excuse me. And you sent her one of the YouTube videos, and something big shifted for her. So can you just tell a little, because that's a great example of how just a shift in awareness can open up the floodgates, and then receiving can happen.
Yeah. Well, it's happened twice now. I can't remember the first time, but the most recent one that I sent her was about your YouTube video on the consciousness of right now. Because in sales, we're always waiting, or we think we're always waiting, right? But once she watched that video and she changed, she did that internal change shift for herself, then she sent me a note the next day, and it was like, you're not going to believe this, but the stale deal just came back again. And I'm like, no surprise.
I love that. I love That's great.
Yeah. So
it's just like the
that,
cherry
right?
on my sundae.
It's just like you know, the idea of right consciousness for her was,
Mm.
and that's a video that can continue on forever, if you ask me, because, you know, we feel like, especially if we feel like we're waiting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. To end the waiting,
Right.
and receiving.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that idea, which is at any given moment, you can simply stop and receive. And it's
Mhm.
all awareness. Yeah. And I just
Mhm.
love how quickly that shifted for her. That was just so much fun. Yeah.
Mhm. I mean, I had one this week with your support video. You know, I had to approach a situation at work today after coming back. And it's funny how the awareness that you talk about, right, and the struggle that you might have in your awareness. And when I was like, no, there's no reason for me to experience and receive support better than I'd ever imagined possible. And sure enough, you know, the presentation happened, and yep, I support this, and I'm like, okay, all right. But we just spin,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Exactly. And
So,
that's the theme of the whole course, as I know you know, which is awareness is the key to everything. So what we're always doing, it's so simple. The mind wants to complicate it, but we're just training our awareness, and as we do,
yeah,
receiving happens. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Well,
it's been great.
yeah, it's been great having you in the course, and you're a long timer because you went through like version 1, version 2, you know, each iteration. So it's just great to watch you just go deeper with it and open up to receiving more and more. And I love
Yeah,
hearing about the internal piece, the deeper experience with your husband. That's just so wonderful. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
thank you, Thelma. I really appreciate you taking some time to
absolutely.
share. And I know that this is going to help other people explore possibilities for themselves. So
Great.
thank you.